The world of plants. Plants are a very important part of the earthy life cycle. Nearly all other forms of life would disappear from our world without them. The roots of the typical green seed plant anchor it firmly and draw water out of the soil. The water is passed upwards through the xylem tissue and then evaporates through the leaves into the atmosphere. The nodes are the points from which leaves spring, and the internode is the length of stem between the leaves. Plants perform many functions and processes, including manufacturing food to sustain life on Earth. All green plants contain a pigment called chlorophyll, which is essential for the process of photosynthesis, whereby food is made in leaves. This food is carried by the phloem tissue to other parts of the plant. These long, chain-like fronds are really the cell structure of the freshwater algae Eulothrix sonata, here seen under a microscope. Algae are the simplest oxygen-producing plants, and many can be seen by the naked eye only when present in very large numbers. There are about 20,000 species of algae, and for the purposes of classification there are divided into 11 major groups, which are characterized by the structure of their cell walls, pigmentation, and reserve food materials. The plant kingdom contains thousands of different plants, ranging from algae, the first plants on Earth, and fungi, which exist as parasites and saprophytes, to mosses, ferns, and liverworts. Flowering plants and the conifers are included in the fourth subphylum of plants. These plants now form the most common vegetation on the Earth. Below left, the red-capped fly agaric fungi, Amanita muscaria, grows beneath beech trees. Below the ground, the fungus forms a layer around the beech roots, thus assisting in the nutrition of the tree. A very poisonous mushroom, the fly agaric is easily recognizable by its pyramidal white scales, which are present on the scarlet cap. Below right, the bracket fungus, Ganoderma applanatum, attacks the heartwood of the tree and can eventually cause its death. Tremella is a parasitic fungus that produces basidiospores at the base of the basidium. Growing on the bark of trees, Tremella has a lobed fruit body or sporophore with a jelly-like texture. It is easily recognizable by its bright orange to brown coloring and should never be eaten as it is highly poisonous and may be lethal. This bubbling yeast-like mixture is Penicillium notatum, which is the source of the antibiotic penicillin. Species of the genus Penicillium are also useful in making cheeses. Thus, not all fungi are harmful, and some can be a positive help to man. The flowering plants, angiosperms, are a very diverse group, ranging from sunflowers to water lilies and cacti. All these plants develop from a fruit, or ovary, containing seeds. However, the pine and other conifers, gymnosperms, have naked seeds, which are borne in cones. This seed of the Moreton bay chestnut or black bean are rich in protein. The beans are often dried and can later be soaked in water and used in cooking. Below, this potato plant stores its food fleshy tubers, which we know and use as potatoes. Carbon, which is essential for life, is always circulating between living organisms and their surroundings by means of the carbon cycle. Plants perform an invaluable function in this process by turning water and carbon in the air into plant substances and releasing oxygen into the atmosphere. The energy from the sun is converted by photosynthesis into chemical energy and stored in plants. This energy is absorbed by our bodies when we eat plants. Nitrogen is vital for life, and most of the nitrogen absorbed by people comes from eating plants that take in nitrogen as salts from the soil. Nitrogen-fixing bacteria in the soil and in the roots of such plants as legumes absorb nitrogen from the air in the soil and convert it to nitrates, which can be taken up by plants. Denitrifying bacteria in the soil reverse the process and release nitrogen into the air. When animals die and decay, ammonia is released into the soil where it is oxidized back into nitrate salts by bacteria, and thus the nitrogen cycle is eventually completed. The carnivorous Venus flytrap can snap together its spiny leaves to make an effective trap when an unsuspecting insect touches the long hairs on the leaf. The pitcher plant has leaves that are shaped like small bags containing a liquid. In order to trap its food and obtain nitrogen, the plant has nectar in the bag to attract the insect, which then drowns in the liquid. This insect is investigating the insectivorous sundew plant, which traps tiny insects with its short, sticky tentacles. These are known as its flypapers. When it rains, some of the water is absorbed by the soil and taken into plants by their roots. During daylight hours, the green pigment chlorophyll in the plant's leaves absorbs sunlight. The carbon dioxide is converted to sugars, and oxygen is released into the air, together with water vapor, through the stomata in leaves. Below left, this cross-section through a leaf show its structure. The outer epidermal cells are covered by a protective, waterproof cuticle. Carbon dioxide, water vapor and oxygen can enter and leave the plant through the stomata. Photosynthesis mainly occurs in the palisade mesophyll cells, and the end products are stored in the spongy mesophyll layer underneath. Below, the carrots we eat are large underground roots, which act as storage organs of onions, consist of leaf layers enclosing a small bud, and are contained within a skin. Below, the coconut palm is a monocotyledon, a plant that has only one seed leaf, and a food and fluid transport system that is grouped into closed, scattered vascular bundles. Coconut palms grow in many tropical areas. Below right, the climbing pea and a dictylodon. The food and the fluid transport system or vascular system consists of vascular bundles arranged in rings. This picture of the structure of a flower shows the pollen-bearing stamens, the male organs, and the ovary, the female organ, which contains an ovule. Thus, most flowers have significantly different male and female organs. Some flowers are pollinated by bees. The petals of these flowers are usually brightly colored to attract the bees. This method of pollination, whereby the bee directly transfers the pollen from one part of the plant to another, is more efficient than other methods. Some flowers can pollinate themselves, whereas others rely on the wind and insects to transport the pollen to another flower. Cross-pollination. These pollen grains fertilize the egg nucleus in the ovule, and the resulting egg embryo grows into a seed and eventually becomes another new plant. These cross-sectional views of seeds show their internal structure and the developing embryo. The monocotyledonous seeds have only one seed leaf, whereas the dictylodons possess two separate seed leaves. A. Endosperm. B. Testa. C. Internal tegument. D. Cotyledons. E. Apical meristem of plumule. F. Hypocotyl. G. Radicle. Above, you can clearly see the seeds in this cut melon, a member of the Cucurbitaceae family. Its fruit is a true berry. Above right, peas develop inside a protective pod. The peas themselves are seeds and are rich in protein and sugar. They are usually harvested while still young and green, and the tender seeds are a nutritious vegetable. Strawberries, apples and plums may be different tasting fruits, but they all contain seeds. The apple, a false fruit, has a fleshy receptacle and outer carpal wall. When it ripens, the horny inner wall forms the core of the fruit containing the seeds. The plum, unlike the apple, is a true fruit and is formed from the single carpel of the flower. The stone constitutes the inner layer of the carpal wall. The strawberry is a false fruit produced from a swollen receptacle. The real fruits of the plant are the pips themselves, each of which is formed from a separate carpel. Sycamore seeds are contained in the brownish-winged fruits or keys. The wings are set at right angles to the fruit, which is carried away by the wind like a tiny, whirling helicopter. When the seed germinates, the two cotyledons are usually the first leaves to appear above the ground, but these soon wither as the plant grows. The seed coat is discarded as the roots spread out. This picture sequence shows the germination of a seed. Under suitable conditions, the embryonic root bursts through the seed coat. The plumule and radicle are the embryonic shoot and root growths respectively. The plumule grows up towards the light. The radicle grows downwards under the influence of gravity. The leaves and roots are now developing. Below, the sharp spines of the cactus discourage animals from eating it and reduce the evaporation rate of water from the plant into the atmosphere. Cacti grow in the driest deserts. If wounded, a cactus releases slime from inside its cells to seal the cut surface of the plant. Bottom, TG hairs of the stinging nettle, Urtica dioica, contain formic acid, which is released when something brushes against the barbs. The acid is contained within the hollow needles. Above, the Australian stinging tree is so poisonous that it can cause pain on contact. The most dangerous species grow in the big rainforests of Queensland. Left, poison ivy, Rhus toxicodendron, may look innocent, but it can cause a severe skin irritation when touched. If eaten, it can be very poisonous indeed, and may be even fatal. The bee orchid, Ophrys apifera, has a flower that resembles a female bee, thus it attracts male bees. The pollen inside the flower is transported to other orchids by the bee in special baskets on its hind legs. Roots of plants are always influenced by gravity and the shoots grow towards the light. A seedling grown inside a tube is a good example of this. The root grows downwards through one end and the shoot grows upwards through the other end. The inset pictures show the response of plants to gravity. This is known as geotropism. When planted upright, the roots grow downwards and the stem grows upwards. But, when the plant is on its side, the roots and shoot will both try to regain their former positions. The Nooksacker River tumbles down through pine-wooded slopes in the Washington National Park. Pine is a softwood and has two types of leaves, brown scale leaves on the long shoots and needle-like leaves on the shorter shoots. Pines grow to a great height and are used for paper making and for timber. Eucalypts are a typical hardwood and are native to Australasia. These adaptable trees grow in almost any climate and environment, including rainforests, swamps, and deserts. They yield essential oils and the hardwood is used for making furniture and railway sleepers. Scientists can estimate the age of a tree by studying the annual growth rings of the trunk. In the temperate zones, new rings of wood are produced annually. Inside the trunk lies a continuous ring of cells known as the cambium. As the tree grows, these cells multiply, and new rings of wood appear. The cambium produces living xylem and phloem, but the heartwood in the central area is dead. This cross-section through a tree trunk clearly shows the cambium layers. Water is transported through the trunk by the xylem and, as these cells grow older, they become invested with a tough substance called lignin, which makes the tree more rigid. The outer protective covering of bark, the cork cambium, varies in appearance and thickness according to the species of the tree. Like many other members of the fig family, the Moreton Bay fig tree has buttress roots to support the trunk. These long, sloping roots grow out of the base of the tree to form a complex series of trunks, which may eventually crush the tree itself. The aerial roots of the Moreton Bay fig sprout from the underside of the lower branches and sometimes develop into a series of trunks. This man is cutting down a tree with a powerful saw. Timber is a valuable commodity and has many industrial and domestic uses. Forestry is now an increasingly important subject for study. Foresters aim to maintain a steady supply of wood for industry by replanting programs and the controlled felling of different trees. Below, cork is obtained from the thick bark of cork oak trees. It is a useful wall and floor covering and soundproofing material. This elastic, buoyant substance is in demand as a bottle stopper. Above, the rhododendron is a popular flowering shrub which has beautiful pink, scarlet, or purple flowers. The shrubs can grow up to several meters high. Above right, the spurge laurel, Daphne laureala, is a non-flowering shrub that is native to the Mediterranean countries. The leaves of some laurels are used for medicines. Modern experimental farms, such as this one at Sydney University, produce new varieties of plants and agricultural crops. It is only by growing new strains of plants and experimenting with new fertilizers and insecticide that agricultural scientists can develop more efficient methods of farming. This scientist is evaluating the value of banna grass as an effective windbreak at the Agricultural Research Station at Gascoyne, Western Australia. Experiments such as this are of invaluable help to many farmers. New plants can be propagated by taking cuttings from existing plants. A slanting cut is made across the node of a young stem. The growing tip is left and the other leaves are removed. The cutting is placed in a bowl of damp sand and kept cool. After several weeks, roots form and the new plant can be planted. Most soft-stemmed plants will grow from cuttings. Above, the drug digitalis, which is used to treat heart disease, comes from the foxglove, a tall plant that grows wild in the woods of northwestern Europe. Below, in a pulp mill, wood is converted to chips for making paper and chipboard. Below right, in chipboard production, the slivers of wood are mixed with synthetic resins and shaped into boards under heat and pressure. Logging or cutting and milling timber is a very important industry in many countries. After the trees are felled, the logs are transported to sawmills to be made into pulp or cut into planks to be used for tools, furniture, fencing, building, and other domestic, commercial, and industrial purposes. The cotton fields of the world produce one of its most important fibers. A cotton fiber is a single cell, which is about 3,000 times as long as it is wide. Grown in comparatively few countries, Cotton is the world's leading fiber for weaving cloth and thread spinning. The bolls of the cotton plants open in the autumn sunshine, and then the fluffy white fibers emerge and are ready for harvesting. In many parts of the world, as here in Morocco, vegetable dyes are used to color cloth or other materials, such as leather. Many plants, including lichens, trees, and flowers, can be utilized in making dyes. And it was only in the 19th century that chemists began to experiment with aniline and other chemical compounds as dyes. Although many plants can be used for dyeing fabrics, the quality of the result depends much on the chemical mordant, or fixer, used to fix the dye in the material. Conservation of our environment is important in the modern world. As trees are felled or die, new young seedlings are planted to replace them. In this way, a steady annual harvest of timber can be assured. The pine trees that this forester is planting will take some years to mature.